Good evening and welcome to Metro Focus. I'm Jenna Flanagan. We begin tonight with President Trump's return to New York, visiting the Hamptons this weekend for a fundraiser hosted by Howard Lorber, one of his closest friends and the chairman of the iconic Nathan's Hot Dog business. His arrival on Long Island was greeted by dozens of protesters who lined the streets in Southampton and West Hampton awaiting the presidential motorcade. The president's trip coincided with a remarkable claim from his lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. In an appearance on NBC's Meet the Press, the former New York City mayor had this to say when questioned on his concerns over the special counsel Robert Mueller's interviewing the president. Take a listen.
Look, I'm not going to be rushed into having him testify so that he gets trapped into perjury. And when you tell me that, he should testify because he's going to tell the truth and he shouldn't worry, well, that's so silly because it's somebody's version of the truth, not the truth. He didn't have a conversation.
Truth is truth. I don't mean to go like...
No, it isn't truth. Truth isn't truth.
And to help us make sense of all of this, we'd like to welcome back to the program Jonathan Lentz, editor of City and State magazine. Jonathan, welcome. So we'll start off with former Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Sometimes truth is not truth, except for when it's truth. Can you help us parse out the former mayor's words?
Clearly, truth is truth, contrary to what he said. But I think there was a point behind what he was saying. The discussion was about the special counsel, whether they'd be able to interview President Donald Trump. And Giuliani's argument was that if he were to sit down and be interviewed, things he say might be contradictory to what James Comey, the former FBI director, has said. It's kind of this he said, she said kind of thing. To go a step further and say, no, truth is not truth, I think that only really hurts their message.
Okay, but there was also a larger serious issue to be discussed, and that was the fact that this weekend, White House counsel Donald McGahn was determined, or it was found out that he was cooperating with Mueller incredibly extensively.
Sure. And I think that goes back to an early decision the team made, the previous legal team made for the president, saying we're going to cooperate completely. Donald McGahn, he's a White House counsel, and that's important to note that he's counsel for the White House. He's not a personal lawyer for the president, so he has to defend the presidency. There was an indication that he was worried that he might get thrown under the bus, that he might get blamed for things. So he had every incentive to sit down and talk with the special counsel, and revealed quite a bit, it seems. I don't think we know everything, but he sat down for, I think, 30 hours.
Yeah, I believe it was 30 hours.
Several interviews.
So then, given the fact that it's still not clear what it was that he was able to give, because he's not a personal lawyer to the president, but a lawyer for the White House, is there a reason why we're seeing what seems to be a panicked reaction coming out of the White House to the fact that he sat down with
Sure,
Mueller?
the sense is that the Trump legal team was unaware of what exactly, and may currently be unaware of what exactly McGahn said in these interviews. We do have a sense that he did talk about some of the firings. Flynn, the National Security Advisor, Comey himself, the efforts which were blocked to fire Mueller, which would have been really problematic. So again, it looks like the special counsel would not have had all of these details if not for their interview with McGahn.
All right, now whether or not the president sits down with special counsel Mueller, we of course will find out, but we do know that the president has been tweeting about special counsel Mueller in a barrage, the latest barrage, we should say, of tweets.
Right, and it's a lot of the same. He's going on the attack. He's trying to undermine and undercut Mueller. He's trying to say, look, there are these investigations that should have been done into Hillary Clinton. Then he pivoted and talked about these security clearances that he's been revoking, and that he may revoke another security clearance as this kind of political attack, politicizing this step that really the president hasn't done before. So, it's more of the same. Attack, try to undermine, try to cast doubt on this investigation.
All right, now I do want to bring this back to Mayor Giuliani, former New York City Mayor Giuliani, in the sense that this isn't the first gaffe that we've heard from him. And I'm starting to wonder how much of his public statements are about perhaps trying this case in public opinion and spin versus actual gaffes made by what was otherwise an incredibly sharp prosecutor.
Sure, and it's worth noting he was the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District, had an impeccable record. Well, not impeccable, but a very strong record, and was really recognized around the country. I think he's changed. I think it is about PR. A lot of lawyers are seeing what he's doing now and they don't really understand that he could be hurting Trump's case. But I think that's it. It's PR. He likes to be in the limelight. This is the kind of strategy Trump employs, win the case in public.
Well, speaking of the way the public feels, the president was on Long Island. Any surprise that he got the reaction that he did?
Well, there were supporters, there were protesters. One little noticed fact is that Trump actually has a lot of support on Long Island, especially out in Suffolk County. There are people there that are concerned about MS-13, the gang warfare, even if it's exaggerated the degree of the violence. And he actually did very well in the presidential race. And it'll be interesting to see how folks out there do in the midterms. Allies like Lee Zeldin, the congressman.
Of course, yes. And so, Jonathan, usually we have you on to talk about state politics, but coincidentally, I guess, all of our national politics are coming out of New York. So I want to thank you so much for joining us on the program again, and we'll definitely be talking more as we get closer to the midterm elections.
Thank you.
Thank you.